This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, all. Maybe let's start our session for today. So it's already like 5 minutes past, and welcome back to the day one of the session. Actually, yesterday was just a syllabus demo and what and all we'll be teaching, and so on. So we had it up. So today is the official day, and let's start it out for the day one. Okay, so and I would just like to analyze the audience actually who have joined. So would you be requiring like say overview of Java syllabus or how is it? So may I know like say uh, like what basically you were dealing with like say before attending this session. So you are a manual tester or an automation tester or how is it? Maybe you can ping it on the chat actually. In the go to meeting, there is a chat option. So if you want, you can unmute yourself and you can tell, or like say, you can write it on the chat as well. Okay, Java not required for me, Patil. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. So how about others actually? Oh, okay, you're a manual tester. Okay. So, question to I don't know how to pronounce it. SU, I think. So, are you aware of some Java basics or how is it? Yes, I am aware of Java basics. Yeah, that's great actually. Then, okay. So, if we proceed further without any Java session, is it fine actually? Mm, sorry, I have a mic issue. Yeah, no problem, not a problem. Okay. Touch base on what is required. Okay, fine then. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Yeah. So as discussed, we'll be touching base little Java topics actually. So maybe Patil, like it's like maybe a brush up for you actually. So we'll touch base on that and then we'll proceed it out. And since it's a day one actually, so we'll be walking through a couple of slides like what we are going to do about and stuffs. So let me just, I think the slide is not visible. Just a minute, let me change it up quite a bit. Yeah, so once again, it's me, Arvind. So, just a short introduction about myself. I have like say 11 plus years of experience as automation engineer, and I worked with a couple of frameworks which is related to Appium, Selenium, and Cucumber and stuffs. And I worked with the certain high profile clients who are like Standard Chartered, Emirates, NBD, and Binance. And I've been as a corporate trainer for around like say 6 years. So and maybe to be appropriate, it would be like say 7 years. I've been as a corporate trainer in this field actually. So I've been taking some of the trainings as an online and offline sessions. So that's a short about myself. And to proceed on to what is mobile automation, like say yesterday we saw about like say three apps that is available for mobile automation. So one is native apps, web apps, and hybrid apps. So native apps which is written specifically for a particular platform such as Android and iOS. Okay, and it runs on your iPhone and then vice versa actually. So if it is going to be installable from your App Store, it's going to be an iPhone device. So if it's going to be running from your Play Store, it's going to be an Android device. And basically we cannot mix match it up. So from your Android, you cannot download it into your iOS, and similarly from your iOS, you cannot download it to your Androids. So by any chance, like say uh, like just a question to you. So what would be the extension of the installation package for Android and iOS? Maybe if you can ping it in the chat, like say, it would be great. Have you recognized like what is the extension that is given for an iOS package and what is the extension that is given for an Android package? So any idea? Maybe just a quick question. So no. So how about others? Yeah, .apk for Android. Yeah, that's great, Patel. Yes. So it's going to be a .apk for Android, and iOS it's going to be like a .ipa file. Okay. So that's the reason like they cannot be mismatched actually. Okay, it's going to be .ipa for iOS. Okay. So that's the reason they cannot be mismatched or did something on that part. Okay. So an iOS package needs to go on an iOS, and Android package needs to go on an Android. So if this has been attached to it, so that is what we call it as your native application. So there is something called a web application actually. So web application in the sense it supports for Safari and iOS and Chrome or built-in browser for your Android. So web applications were more prevalent when your Android devices had their own what to say, when they had their own native browsers actually, how iOS has a Safari, same way the Android was having their own browser. But nowadays, like it has been slightly changed actually, so web apps don't have anything much actually to do, but the certain payment systems will be happening only on the web apps. Okay, so Android's native browsers. So that's the reason. And going further, like say what is hybrid application? They are a web application written in HTML and JavaScript and wrapped inside a native container. Technically, they work as a web, but we have application on it. So this is a quite interesting one and a hybrid application because most probably like you might have heard about technologies like mean stack, MERN stack, Ruby on Rails, and all these things. So these are nothing but hybrid applications actually, so which can work upon the browser as well as in your it can work on your browsers as well as on your what to say, on your mobile apps as well. So it's a quite interesting one, a hybrid application. So if you ask me like what people are nowadays using the maximum out of these three application, it will be like a native application. So that is how they designed it. Okay, so now coming back to the prerequisites for our APM automation or your mobile automation. So basically the prerequisites will be like Java and Selenium. If you know, it's good enough. If you don't know, it's fine because it's an optional only. So why I mentioned Selenium is like say if you have an understanding of Selenium, so it would be a better option. But if you don't have it, no issues. It's not going to affect it at any point of time. And we need Android SDK for Android Studio and Xcode for your iOS. So these two are required actually. So here in our session we'll be taking two things actually. So one is your Android and another one is your iOS. So both will be dealing out to you how to identify, how to recognize the elements and what is the behavior. Everything will be checking into it. And Appium, to introduce the Appium to you. So basically Appium is an open source automation framework actually. So the current version has been like 2.x actually, so that's what we'll be using it up. So okay, so here the main thing is about like say APM. So in this session we'll be using something like say 2.x. So that's the version of APM we'll be using, so which is latest available in the market. So previous version was around like 1.6, 1.9. But we'll be using the 2x versions because it has a lot of improvements and stuffs which makes installation more easier actually I would say. So that is the reason. And for mobile automation, to introduce you, like say APM is an open source test automation framework used for mobile automation and across different platforms such as iOS and Android. It also supports your mobile web browser automation and has a variety of language supports for automation. So when you say variety of languages, like it supports C sharp, JavaScript, so it supports n number of uh, languages. And also, what is the advantage of your APM? So basically, the first thing is like open source. You don't need to pay anything. So the second thing is like it provides supports for all the three applications which is available. So whether it's going to be your native application, hybrid, or a web browser, and the languages supported as we mentioned in the previous slide. So it's going to be Java, Python, C Sharp, Ruby, JavaScript, PHP. And it integrates seamlessly with continuous integration tools like Jenkins, which we'll be seeing it up actually, how to integrate it up. And obviously like if you don't have any devices to connect or something like that, we can have the emulator, simulator, real devices, and cloud-based mobile automation such as AWS device farms, browser stack, anything you name it. So everything can be usable in your APM. Okay, it's and also like there is something like XUI test available and Espresso. So two tools are available actually. Uh, these two tools are nothing but they are like competitors for your APM, I would say actually, because APM is a tool which can test the UI of an application. UI in the sense the application itself it can test, but the code base would be there, right? So where the developer has developed the code and then he might have tested the code, right? So that code APM doesn't have access to test it out. So that is one problem it has, or I would say like say other tools as an advantage for it. So how can we deal with that is like say we cannot do anything on that part except to migrate to some tools like XUI test or Espresso. So in order to test the application code, it's kind of a unit testing we are going to do. So if your application, like say, if we have an approach like TDD approach, test data driven approach, where you need to write the first test cases, and based on the test cases, they develop the application, then these tools will be a right fit for it. So, by any chance, like anybody worked on these tools before, like Espresso and XUI test? Maybe if you, yeah, okay. Patel said no. Okay, so how about the others? Okay, no problem. But anyhow, it is not required for our APM just to get it out. Like whether you have any knowledge on that, I've checked it out, but anyhow, we don't require it. And APM doesn't work on application code directly with the application itself. So APK or package or IPA. Okay. So basically APM works not with the package but with the application only. So that is the main thing. And moving on, like say, how does an APM will work actually? So we have certain protocols, like how does an APM will work. So we are going to see it over here. It sounds to be little theoretical first thing, actually, maybe a first session or something like that. But going further for the installation and how to create an emulator, so everything is going to be a very practical one. Since it's a first session, like we need to know some basics. So that's the reason, like it'll be a more theoretical one. But going further, it'll be a more of practical actually. So let's see it up. Okay, so how does an APM will work? Just a moment. Just give me a moment. I'll mute for a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. Had a very bad throat. Yeah. So let's resume it up. So how does an APM will work? So let us see about it. So basically APM is a HTTP server, so written in your Node.js that exposes your REST API. Okay. So basically Node.js is nothing but a server available. It's going to be a front-end server available and it exposes a REST API that is going to be available. So Node.js is kind of a server, so where all your APIs can be deployed and all or something like all your packages can be deployed and it can be reused as well. So that is the reason like Node.js is most used actually server at any point of time. So or I would say like say that is the only thing open source and which can be used across. So it's a very easy one and uh, I wouldn't say it's like knowledgeably like reading it or practicing it, it's not easy, but from the usage perspective, like if I want to download a package, so it's going to be a very easy task over there. So from that perspective, it's an easy one, and it exposes all the APM eligible things as a REST API. And how does the communication happen is like the client communicates with the APM server with the help of REST API, and it is handled by mobile JSON wire protocol. So basically, it's nothing but a JSON in which it communicates to your client. That means an APM is available and there is a mobile device available. So APM server sends the response back to the mobile device with the help of this JSON. Simple as it is. So initially it happens through an APN session created and interaction between an Android or iOS is happened through the desired capabilities. So there is something called a desired capabilities available. So desired capabilities is something like say the way in which you are going to interact with your iOS or your Android. So there are different categories available actually. So maybe let me pull it down really over here. Sorry. Yeah. So these are the categories actually. So what is the port number, base package, application activity, and instrumentation, browser name, platform name, device name, platform version. So these are some of the desired capabilities options that we use it out in our programming. Okay, or we use these keywords as part of our desired capabilities. So these capabilities are nothing but to identify what type of platform you're going to use it about, whether it's going to be an Android or iOS, and what is the device you're going to test it out. So usually to get the device ID, I'll tell it to you, like there are certain ADB commands actually. So Android debug commands actually. So those commands I'll be teaching out to you. So there are a couple of commands which you can memorize it and you can use it up. So with that options, basically we can get whatever the Android device that is linked to it. For iOS, it's going to be a different Xcode commands available. So again, it is going to identify what devices are connected to your laptop or your desktop. So that also we can identify it. So this is used to identify only the simulators, emulators, and your real devices. So if any cloud-based devices are connected, so it would be like not available to identify it out because cloud-based it's a separate platform actually. So that will give you the device IDs, UDIDs, everything. So those things we won't be able to check it as part of our laptop or your desktop. So any doubts here so far till now, till this point? Yes, Patil, please go ahead. Like you can unmute yourself and you can speak it, or you can ping it in the chat. Any doubts are available. Okay, you're clear with the concepts. Yeah, thanks for the confirmation. So I thought there is a doubt. So how about others? Like if you don't have doubt, let's proceed it out for today. Okay, mic is not working. No problem, not an issue. Anyhow, you can chat it on either this go-to meeting or you can use the WhatsApp channel as well. So both will be monitored. Okay, so no problem. So let's continue it up. Okay, so let's go to the next topic. Now let's see about the theoretical way. How does an information is sent from Appium to Android and Appium to iOS? So basically, first we'll check about the Android one and let me see it up. Oh, okay. So the installation is little crushed one. Okay, let's come to it when we see that part. So APM for Android, so basically like say it's a client library, okay? So there will be a client library file available and it sends the request, it sends the REST API actually. So it's like a client library is something like a set of library files available inside your laptop or your desktop. So it's going to be a Java library files actually. So it sends a request to your REST API and from your REST API it okay. So from your REST API, the mobile server uses what to say, the Appium server uses or it communicates with the help of a mobile JSON wire protocol. Okay, and the Appium server has a connected devices available, and the command used by bootstrap.jar in Android converts to the understandable format as UI automator. So whatever the command or the communication is sent to the sent via the mobile JSON wire protocol, okay, communicates with your emulator with the help of these command, a bootstrap.jar command inside your Android. And UI Automator sends the command to your device. So UI Automator, now the latest version, we have it as UI Automator 2. So that is available. So it's that's the version, latest version we are available. So this what a UI Automator will do, it is like it will extract your particular application's backend code and then it automates it up. Okay, so it's kind of an automator where or it's like a automator support where all the device functionality will be exhibited by this UI automator, and the device communicates again back to the Appium server and Appium server to your client. So client is nothing but it's a set of library files which is available in your laptop or your desktop. So it goes something like client library file to your Appium server, and Appium server uses the mobile JSON in order to communicate with your Android devices. And how an Android device's action will be performed is like the Appium has an inbuilt UI automator. So this inbuilt UI automator will help us to communicate with the front end application, and front end sends the response back to your Appium server, and Appium server uses it, or Appium server communicates with the client. This is how it communicates. Diagrammatical representation or a generic representation would be something like this. Maybe let me show it up over here. So it's a generic one actually. So this is about it. So this is the client library, your laptop or your desktop actually. So your sends your mobile JSON to your Appium server, and Appium server interacts with your mobile device. Okay. So usually since it's an Android, right? So it's going to be your UI automator. Okay. So and then used with the UI automator, whatever the response I get, I send it back to the Appium server, and Appium server communicates back to your client. So this is how the interaction works around. So any doubt over here so far? Even in your interviews, if they ask you this question, how does it work? So you should be in a position to tell. So the keywords would be over here, like say mobile JSON wire, and then UI automator, and then the request response, which is sent in between that. So kindly let me know if there is any doubt. You can ping it on the chat or in our go to meeting chat or in your WhatsApp chat. So whichever is your convenient mode, you can communicate it up. And when we move on to iOS, so there is a small difference actually. So what is the difference is like say, so everything is going to be the same. So but the difference is going to be like say WebDriver agent app. So this is going to be the different. So whenever an Android, or iOS device is being tested, so there is something called a WebDriver agent will be installed on your device in which you are going to test it out. And this WebDriver agent device only is going to communicate with your device and your Appium server. So it's a kind of app only it is getting installed. So without this WebDriver agent, the interaction doesn't happen. And here in iOS specifically, we have something called a XUI test actually. So which is nothing but your Xcode. And to test the code out of it, so we have the XUI test. So that basically installs this WebDriver agent inside your device. So these two are like, say, it's like a mandatory thing. So again, the interaction procedure is going to be the same. The client library, REST API. So the request is passed to the Appium. So how it passes? It passes as a mobile JSON wire protocol. So that is the format actually. And your Appium again interacts with your iOS device, and the command will be interpreted by a WebDriver agent in your iOS, but in Android it's going to be an UI automator, and the WebDriver agent will convert to iOS device understandable using your XUI test. Okay, and from the device it communicates to your Appium with the help of this WebDriver agent, and the Appium communicates back to your client. So here the difference is going to be only your WebDriver agent and your XUI test. So if it's going to be an iOS WebDriver agent, so if it's going to be an Android, it's going to be your UI automator. Okay, so any doubts here so far till now? Okay, let me check the chat as well. Okay, so far no doubts. Okay, so let me pause a minute. So any doubts there, just you can ping it to me. Okay, so I don't think so any doubts are there. So let's proceed it up further. So the next one is like the installation part of it. Okay, so installation is going to be like say, uh, first we need to have, maybe let me put this slide. Okay, I'm not sure why it is showing like this. But let me quickly rearrange this particular part. Yeah. Okay, so the installation part of Appium is quite simple actually. So for an Android device, if you want to test an Android, right? So basically we require the Android Studio actually. So where you can download it. So if it is for your Windows or your Mac, no issues. So it gives you the support for both actually. So but you have a different ways to download it up. So it automatically detects it up. So just you can go to your google.com and type in Android Studio, and you can give the get Android Studio. So whatever is the latest version, keep it up. But obviously this will require a lot of storage actually, because you're going to, if you're going to use an emulator without using a real device, if you want to plan to use a emulator or your simulator, so this is going to take more space actually than it is mentioned over here. So just be cautious on that alone actually. So let me ping this page to you. Okay. So the complete steps are available actually over here. Okay. So you can use this one actually. So you can use this download latest version available. I think now the latest version available is Giraffe. So you can make use of this to download it up. I think I have a little older version when compared to this one, but it's fine to create an emulator or simulator on this particular part. So it's not going to affect it at any way. Okay, so this is part of the direct download actually. So And the next thing is like say we want to download your Xcode actually. So if you want to download your Xcode, if you're using a Mac machine, so you need to download your Xcode in order to identify the iOS device, or in order to create an emulator simulator for your iOS, we need this Xcode actually. So this is what is available. So it's as an available downloaded format available. So if you are using your Mac machine, so I would suggest you to install this one. Okay, so what type of machine you have, guys? Maybe you have an iOS, like say a Mac or a Windows. Okay, it's a window. Okay, fine. Just a moment. Okay, so most are like say Windows, no problem. Then I would suggest you to install the Android Studio actually. So it requires at least I think like 50 GB actually, because the installation exe is fine, but to create an emulator or simulator, if you don't want to connect a real device, then it's becomes little. It needs a more space actually. Sorry. Yeah. So that is what is about. And again, one more thing, we need to install your Node.js. So this is again the Node.js part of it. So this is the link for your Node.js. So if you are using your Windows, it's quite simpler actually. So just click on the Windows installer and MSI file will be available. So I'm using a Mac, so MSI will not work for me. I need to go for your Mac installer. So if it's going to be a Windows installer, so choose accordingly, according to 32-bit or 64-bit. Just try to use it up, and it works fine. It's just a click next actually. So I have the installation process to set the environment variable. I have a repository available over here, which you can I'll send it across inside our WhatsApp chat actually. So there is a Node.js installation guide available. So let me quickly check it up. So installation of Node.js is available. So let me download it for you and send it right away. So this is the Node.js installation guide I have. So how to set the environment variable inside your Windows machine. So everything is available. So just make use of this in order to install it out. So since I have like a Mac machine, so the environment variable is not available for me. But for Windows, it's like a mandatory thing. Then only it will recognize the version and stuff. So better try this one. So I'll just pass it on to you as well at the end of the session, this documentation. So just have a look at it. And if you want to install it in a Appium, sorry, if you want to install it in a Mac, then it's going to be like say we need to have a homebrew actually. We need to have this as a homebrew. So in Mac setup, we usually have it as certain commands that needs to be executed for a Node.js. But if it's going to be an installer way, so that is also fine. So both ways fine actually. So it doesn't have much impact actually. So that is how it is about. And this is for Xcode installer actually. So let me pass on this commands to you. So in case if you're using your Mac machine, so this would be helpful. So these are like a simple commands, so which uses your installation process for your Xcode actually. So if you want to download it from your this particular device, this particular link, it's fine enough, well enough. But if you want to install it over through a code, like say from a command prompt or a terminal, then this needs to be followed. Okay, so that means we have something called a homebrew available inside a Mac. Then we need to use that one to install it up. So that's it. So there are two different ways, nothing much towards it. And there are some ADB commands available to identify the device or to interact with your device with the emulator or simulator. So there are a couple of ADB commands actually, so which is available. Let me quickly show it to you. So there are a couple of commands available, so which I have listed it down. So once we start our session, we can do it up. For example, I can start your Android device and show it to you. So I have my Android Studio. So I've already installed it. So again, installation is easy. You need to click next, next, next. That is it. So in order to create your device, right? So let me quickly show it up and how to identify the ADB devices. Let me show it to you. Once you install your Android Studio, right, it will just open it up. So the first thing that you need to do it about is like say create a sample project. Okay. So that means like say it will be something like this. File new project would be available. So just create an maybe basic activity view. Yes, this should be fine. Select your phone and tablet. So obviously you will have a new project. Select phone and tablet. So you can have a basic activity view and then click next and let all these things be the same actually. So this is where your project will be written, and over here the language will be Kotlin by default because that is the process they follow it now. If you want to change it to Java, it's well enough. And what is the SDK version? So that means the minimum SDK it can support for this application. So maybe you can give it like say 12 or 13 or something, whichever is feasible. So I'll give it as 11. So this is how it is. You can give a name for it. So if it is my application, it's fine. So you can click on the finish. So it will install the platform SDK, everything for you, and then keep it ready. Okay, so this will take a little bit time actually. Yeah, it's completed quite fast. Okay, so finish it up. So it will open a project for you. Okay, no issues. And then when you go to the panel over here, which is device manager over here, if it is it will be available. If it is not available, just go to view and tools window and you can find it over here, device manager. So since I've already have it, it's not available over here, so you can see it over here, device manager. So if you click it, it will be available over here, and there is a create button available, so just create it up. And what is, click on the phone or tablet, whichever you're going to use it up. So Appium supports both the things. Anyhow, both are like say Android available, so it doesn't matter. And over here, like whichever the device you want to select, you can select it up. Maybe let me select a 6 and click on next. So over here, like say whichever is the Android version it needs to support, you can support it up. So usually in your device when you go to about phone, you can find the Android version available. So which is going to be something like say Android 13 or 12 or 10, whatever it is actually. So now everyone has the latest one. Either it should be a 12, 13 or 14. You might have been having it up. So every 12, 13 and 14 will have a respective numbers over here. So starting from Android package 123 till the 33 version, it will be available. If it is not available, so basically we need to download it. Again, the download will occupy some space in your laptop. It might slow down a little bit, but there is no other go for it. So as you can see, Tiramisum is the release name, and here it gives the Android 13. So that is the build. So if it's going to be 34, so it's going to be like say, not sorry, this one. Yeah. So if you download it, it's going to be like a 14 version, these two, I think, if I'm not wrong. Okay, but 13 should be fine. I'm using the 13 version. Click on next. And what type of settings that you need to do for your emulator, you can do it over here. So your RAM size, all the things will be available over here. Okay, so here you can find it in the memory and storage. So this is more important because the application that you're going to use or install, if it is of more size or bigger size, we need to expand this memory, heap memory, internal storage, everything. Okay, you can convert it over here, MBs, GBs, TBs, etc. over here. So mostly let's go for 2 GB, maybe let's try it like say 8. Okay, so whatever you give it over here, it reflects on your laptop or desktop's hard disk. So be cautious in what you're going to give. Okay, and then click on a finish. So your virtual device has been created over here. To start your virtual device, there is a play button available. Click on the play button and the device will start to run. Give it a couple of minutes. Why it is not starting up? Yeah, it has started. Okay, it takes a little bit time. That's it. Yeah. So it takes a bit time actually, and then it starts your application, it starts your virtual device. So whichever the device you want, you can choose it over here. So it's like kind of a real device only, but testing on a simulator emulator is mostly not approved actually. Not we can't say like say we have tested your application on this and we cannot approve the software for your release. It needs to be tested on a real device. But for our testing, I think the emulator or simulator should be fine. So even a real device, I can connect it and show you. So no problem. Okay, so let it start. Now how to identify this device name and stuff. Okay, so if you're using a Mac, go to the terminal. If you're using a Windows, go to the command prompt. Over there, you can find something like a terminal or a command prompt available. Okay, so here there will be a command like say ADB devices. So this command is going to list the total number of devices which is connected to your laptop or your desktop. So if I click it, you can see my emulator is getting connected and this is the name of the emulator that I need to provide it in order to run your application. So any doubts here so far till now? So how to create a new project in your Android Studio and create a virtual device. Okay, so these are the first steps for your baby steps for your Appium automation actually. So creating a simulator and emulator. So this is all I had for today. So still we have 3 minutes, like we can have a Q&A session and tomorrow we'll see how to create an simulator and emulator inside your XUI test and how to identify that device. Same way what we did. and then tomorrow we'll brush up on little bit of Java topics as well. So any doubts, just we can discuss it out now. So if no doubts are there, so will you be giving an overview how to use Appium using my day? Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I use a Mac actually. So because it is convenient for me to test both the things in one particular item. So but if you want specifically APM within Windows, so just tell me one day ahead or 2 days ahead so that I'll prepare my Windows machine. Yeah. So basically it will be on a Mac because we need to teach both the things, right? So I use a Mac. Okay, so does it answer your question? Maybe name, I'm not sure. It's SU. Yeah, thank you. So this is all the thing I had for today. So maybe let me know for any doubts, and tomorrow we'll be seeing how to create a simulator or emulator in an iOS using your Xcode. So what we need to download it and what we need to have and what is the command we need. So we'll be checking it out. So if no question is there, so let's meet up again tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you all. Thanks for attending the session. So let's catch up tomorrow.